What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. Brother Keith sent me an email, and I was kind of shocked to see this, and it says this: "Day music." Hey, O'Shea. There is another petition to cancel another YouTuber. Who is it, you ask? Can I get a dun 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 sound effect, Peter? Cynthia G. Maybe do a video on this. Give a round of applause. And then I look at it here. It says remove Cynthia G from YouTube permanently. Somebody can't spell. It says with the rise in violence against men, specifically African American men, YouTuber Cynthia G has galvanized. So basically, what they did was they copied the petition that was against Kevin Samuels and made another petition about Cynthia G. And to be honest, I don't really believe that they did this to, really get Cynthia G off of line. But the whole idea is that as easy as you can say those same things about Cynthia G or Kevin Samuels, somebody can look at the content that Cynthia G has and say, well, you know what? All of the deaths and all of the violence against African American men are because of Cynthia G. Now, we all know that that's not true. And no matter what kind of content Cynthia G says about black men, she's been, I've been following Cynthia G. We started getting popular around the same time. At first, it was more or less about white supremacies and stuff like that, and then it turned into, her content about black men and things like that. But it's safe to say that Cynthia G is not responsible for what's happening amongst black men. Just like Kevin Samuels is not responsible for what's happening with black women. Okay, if black women are susceptible to not being married or negative stereotypes against them, those stereotypes were around long before Kevin Samuels was around. The things that Kevin Samuels was talking about, black men in America have been talking about that a long time. And, Cynthia G points out problems with black men that we all know to certain degrees are true. But the real situation with Cynthia G, and again, I don't really feel that I would only petition against those who would try to have us removed, in my opinion. That's the only kind of people I would want to have removed. Is if you want to do that to us, then we can be petty too. That's my position. But the reality is, Cynthia G's content is based on self-induced behavior. If you really want to be honest about it, when you talk about the problems that Cynthia G has with black men as a whole, don't get me wrong, a lot of it is objective, because we can look at black men as a whole and we can understand, like, okay, yeah, black men are having these problems. But Cynthia G also has a subjective perspective about black men. And we know about one of her biggest incidents, which was that pregnancy with what's that one guy, Rob or whatever his name was? This guy. It's self-induced. Okay? And the issue is with a lot of black women that you see online complaining about black men, they want to be completely unaccountable from the guys that they deal with. I think that there's no bigger example of this than Cynthia G herself. She's a walking hypocrite to the positions that she puts out. Because you can't say that black men don't take care of their kids, black men don't do this, black men don't do that. And then, oh, by the way, you make the decision to do exactly what you said that black men are not doing, and you get involved with a guy that makes you a single mom when you had no kids and had the opportunity to get a guy who would deal with you. I mean, it's just a level of hypocrisy. And then this sort of hatred that happens with her, and I'm just using her as an example. The daddy issues, let me just say this. For some of you whose fathers were not there in your life, it's a sad thing, right? A lot of the smoke that you have for your daddy not being there should be directed towards your mother to a certain degree. Number one, she chose him. And number two, what's his side of the story? Okay? What's his side of the story? Right? That's one thing. But another thing is that if you go out and make the same mistakes that your parents made with black men, then you come on and you spew that hatred towards black men in your community. You bring other groups of guys to come on and talk about black men and what they don't have. And you make yourself look quite ridiculous, which is what I believe this is what she's done for herself. And the reality is that there are a lot of black women in the communities that we do talk about that have negative stereotypes. What we as black men can relate and say that not all black women are like this. You'll never hear Cynthia G and the counterparts do that for us. But we'll realize and say, you know, you have these group of black women who are in the middle. These black women who you can't work with. These black women who are not destroyed enough where they can't be compatible with a black man. We admit that all the time. You know, I talked about a sister that was out there in Detroit that beat up a Pookie and Ray Ray for stealing her car. I gave her the utmost respect for being an African-American businesswoman and taking care of business and stuff. We have a lot of them like that in our community. Sure, we sure do. We have a lot of good mothers and good wives that don't get promoted in the black community. So I can't never come out here and say, you know, these women out here, you know, and have a sort of hatred towards them. Now, there are some women out there that do exhibit those things, but we have a lot of women out there who do not. Okay, we have many women out there that are just, you know, living a day-to-day life, and, you know, if they come across the right guy with the right frame of masculinity, and it may take some time, but, you know, you have some women who will buy in. The reality is that the women who are, and I believe that the struggle YouTuber that was really trying to hate on Kevin Samuels is associated with her. These are women who have their own bad experiences. They did it to themselves. That's the reality. So when you hate black men for, you know, what they didn't do for you, or you met a lot of guys who were losers in their life, you know, well then what kind of person are you that attracted those kind of men to you? A lot of people did it to themselves. And see, that's the lack of accountability that a part of our community has that's unsuccessful, pointing the fingers at everybody else for where they're at. And you have it in the female communities. Oh, they did this, we didn't do nothing. Well, then why are you where you're at? How come other black women in America got married? How come other black women that from your same circumstances, they ended up living nice lives, they got taken care of by, you know, good husbands, by black men, and they're doing much better than you? Why? Because they took accountability. Some women want to become baby mamas. Like, I remember when she got that whole thing, one of her own sisters now, keep in mind, I want you tell you this. When Cynthia G got exposed for the Rob Perkins thing, it wasn't a black man that exposed that. It was one of her black female friends that exposed it. Turned on her. So as much as she talks about black men, the one that put that, you know, kind of F on her report card was a sister. And she was saying like, well, you know, we were kind of hooking up and things like that in those text messages. And what that pretty much talks about, what that pretty much says is, you planned to be a single mother in the first place. You never wanted to be with this guy. But you want to talk about black men don't want to marry nobody. Black men ain't good husbands. Well, if you wanted to be a single mom in the first place, then whose fault is that? You're where you're supposed to be at. And see, that's what I'm saying. A lot of this self-induced hatred towards black men are, you know, this is a situation you created for yourself. It's not like, you know, black men didn't find you attractive or wouldn't talk to you or didn't want to be with you. No, it's just your own situations and your own mentality. This is where you're at today. A lot of nice black men would have dated you, taking care of you, or wanted to. You didn't want that for yourself. So let's come on here online and let's spew hatred for people. But the reality is that it can go both ways, and we see that. It's easy that somebody can say that what she's talking about with black men is hate speech. They should take her down. I don't want her to be taken down. I don't want anybody to be taken down. But that's the reality. And until certain people, black men and black women in our community, take responsibility for their self-induced issues, you're always going to be blaming others for your problems. That includes Cynthia G. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Oh, Shay Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I really appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe at the bell. Check out the situation. Check out the first comment at the top. And as you know, the buffoonery remains at an all-time high. I'm out. Check out the Black Man Perfect t-shirts. Peace.